Welcome everyone to another episode of Kiwi Talks. My guest today is a composer and sound designer who worked recently on the Doom Eternal DLC, The Ancient Gods, but he has also worked on Duke Nukem, Quake, Dusk, and more. I'd like to welcome the awesome Andrew Hulshult. How you doing?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
Good. We were talking a little bit before about Doom Eternal, the DLC, and how that came
Yes.
about. And I was asking you in regards to Mick Gordon because his mixing is next level. And
Yeah.
I'm sure there must have been some pressure there in terms of wanting to stay true to the vein of it, but not copy it outright. And
Yeah.
that's always a hard balance.
No, yeah, totally. It told us that like they were really open about what they wanted, because like they came to us with a really respectful look on the thing, where they were like, hey, we want you to work on this. We know that you're not Mick Gordon, so we're trusting you with this. If you want to take it in a different direction that you think's cool, hey, let's explore that kind of thing. There wasn't a whole lot of time for it, but I was pretty adamant, and so was David, about wanting to kind of keep the initial tone and like the vibe that was set there, with while adding in our own little thing. Like, yeah, you could try and be like a cover band, and do something like that and be like, yeah, check out these tunes, hey, they sound just like the other ones that you heard, but there's no fun in that.
Yeah,
So
totally.
so I wanted to try and do something that still paid respects to the hard work that he put in, because he put in a fucking lot of hard work
Totally.
for both of those soundtracks, while kind of putting some of my personality into it, in the same way with David, I'm sure. But yeah, like respecting what came before it, because the way I look at it is like, if I'm like, if I have to step away from, like, let's say a Dusk or a Medieval or something like that in the future, I want, if hopefully not, I'd love to stay a part of those. If you're listening, Dave and Leon, if I have to for some reason, then I'd love for whoever to steps in to respect what I established there. And I feel like that's important from musician to musician, and it needs to be kind of regarded. Like whenever you're working with IPs, it's not just like, here's a brand new clean slate. It's like, no, look at what's come before you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know Chad would have been like your master Yoda, I suppose. So, because he gave you a lot of guidance, didn't he?
I'm sorry. All I can think about whenever anybody says Yoda anymore is like the Reddit Yoda thing. I'll show that to you later. There's gonna be some
show it
people
to me later,
okay.
because
All right,
I'm not sure.
right.
I'm trying to think if I've seen it. I might possibly not, but
Okay.
anyway. So yes, he was like a guiding hand to you, because I know
Yeah.
you would have been under immense pressure.
Yeah, totally. Oh man, he guided me through a ton of things, and in fact, that entire development cycle was like, while the deadlines were very tight, we knew that going in. It wasn't like a surprise or anything. We were like, yeah, cool, challenge accepted. He guided us so well through that development cycle, and I felt like I was going to college the entire time, like a college that I always wanted to take, in terms of learning new tools, learning new skills. Hey, have you ever thought about it this way? We would just bounce ideas off of each other all the time, and I swear to you, like 2 or 3 times a day while I'm working on the Ancient Gods, it was, hey Chad, like, I want to talk to you to make sure that I'm not fucking this up, like, but
Yeah.
he was always like, this is great, you're doing great, just be you. He's like, and then he would just plant some ideas. He's like, hey, have you ever thought about this? Have you ever thought about that? Have you ever used this tool? Whenever I was working on something, I tried this, maybe you'd like it. And it was just all this stuff, because whenever you're working by yourself, like I work by myself every day, you don't get to bounce these ideas off anybody. It's all you. You're paid. You're the one making the executive decisions. So whenever I have somebody that's at a prestigious company like id, who's very vetted on the music side and on the sound design side, like Chad is, It's awesome. So cool. It's my favorite part.
Yeah, well, he's an incredibly talented individual as
Yeah,
well. So can you
very
think
much
of
so.
one specific incident, or scenario, I should say, that where he really helped you with something, or a specific piece of
Yeah.
advice that he gave you?
Well, number one, he told me while I was like, hey, I don't know if this is good enough. I don't know if this, while I'm sending him demos, he's like, hey, look, we hired you for you. You don't need to worry about any of that. He's like, whatever you're going to give us something good. You're not going to, this isn't going to be a problem. It's like, I know you. If I thought it was going to be a problem, I would have told them, hey, he's not the guy. So that was nice.
That's cool.
But the other things that I remember was him pushing me towards experimenting more with sound design in terms of
Like
some of
blending
my
like blending the two.
yeah. Experimenting with sound design in terms, and I kind of took that in terms of experimenting with sound design with my hits, like the kicks and like the big riser stuff and like the impact moments, that kind of stuff, and also with some of the textures on the ambience. So we did these crazy things where specifically there was one they had some of the audio left over from Eternal, some of the
choir
extracted
samples?
audio. Yeah. Well, no, not the choir samples. Those were cool. I think David did it.
Yeah. He did some
I
stuff
can't
with
touch what he did with Amora. It's amazing. But the Holt, like all of the ambience in that, and some of the heavy tracks. There's one instance where Chad said, hey, he's like, maybe is there anything that you want that maybe we have that you can source maybe from the Eternal game, like just something that you can mess with that would be a cool callback? And I'm like, oh, you know what, like the Urdak choirs. I was like, do you have any of those? And he was like, yeah, I think I do. So he looked for them, and they're amazing. Like, I'm not quite sure who Mick got to perform those, but they're great. And I took it and I was like, how do we make this sound corrupted and kind of fucked up? So I took there's a point where the vocalist is going, and I cut those up and I put them on a sequencer and just made it go real fast and like had it like just a beat slam back. Yeah, that's exactly what that is. And just had a beat slam in between it. And I was like, oh yeah, that's kind of cool. And Chad, whenever I sent it over to him, he's like, I fucking like that. so like that was a moment where I was like, because he had told me, he's like, experiment with anything. And he was like, and you can ask me for anything. And I was like, okay, how about this? And he's like, done. He gave it to me and he's like, now just do whatever you want with it. And I was like, oh, this is cool. So them just giving me freedom and him like kind of leveling me out was great. So that's my best experiences with them.
So what was the very first piece that you worked on?
Blood Swamps.
That, to be honest, I think that's like my favorite of yours.
It's like everybody's.
Yeah.
Like whenever
so
they're like, what's your favorite Andrew track? They're like Blood Swamps.
Yeah. so yeah, what did that come from?
Fun.
Where did that come from?
Anxiety. Seriously. Well, like that whole thing was I have to get things done. I need it to be awesome. You need to write something that's going to blow people's fucking socks off. And it's me bullying myself into writing awesome riffs. Awesome. I just called my own riffs awesome. That's terrible. You know what I mean? Right. Like,
hey, you can call them awesome, man. Come on. Give yourself some credit.
But like it's me just going, how do we push the envelope further than we did before? How do we take it in another direction, but even further? Like this can't be a Dusk where things have to sound like a Nine Inch Nails record. This has to be like a Doom where it sounds like chaos, and like, but it sounds like beating the shit out of something is fun too. So I just pulled out an 8-string guitar, tuned it down a little bit further. I think I went like, I can't remember the tuning at the moment. It's ridiculous. But I was like, okay, let's just start jamming on it. I jammed for an entire day, cut up the riffs that I like, and started putting together about 30, 45-second pieces. And like with drums and everything, I already had a really pretty solid drum mix going. And the first day I had like about 3 or 4 parts of Blood Swamps in a good place. But it came from like, you know, just a place of, hey, you went from being kind of like the indie composer guy to, hey, now we want you to work on Doom, and me going like, oh fuck, you know. Like,
so was that the heavy stuff that you worked on first, and then you kind of went backwards and worked on the ambient stuff? Or were you doing all 3 at the same time?
I think I worked on the LC first, like the light combat stuff.
Yeah.
Because I thought going into it, I was like, what's going to be the hardest thing to get? Because if you think about it, ambience, if you're making ambience for a game, you can do that. Like all you have to do is look at a level, look at the set dressing, and ask, you know, your producer or whoever your lead, like, what's the tone you're going for here? That's generally, for me these days, that's a therapeutic and fun experiment. I love ambient tracks. Heavy stuff is just the same way. It's just in a different direction. And typically, you know, you can write something fairly easily. It may not be amazing and like going to blow everybody's socks off, but you can get the job done in terms of writing something that's combat music. I'm talking about just in general. In combat music, pretty easily. The stuff that's hard is the thing that's in between, where you're like, yeah, there's some combat going on, but there's not always combat going on.
Yeah.
And you still need it to feel like, this still works, and it's not too motivational, you know, it's just enough to keep you going and like to keep you walking forward and feeling like, you know, like that unstoppable machine, but don't push you too much over the edge. So it's like this weird fine balance. So I think I spent a lot of my time analyzing what is this supposed to sound like first, and did that, and then moved over to fleshing out the rest of the ideas that I had for like an LC and an ambient that I'd already had kind of pre-production wise.
Right. And I suppose what a lot of people don't realize is you kind of have to do multiple versions of Blood Swamps in terms of how it's implemented changes, right? Because you can have multiple variations in terms of how it cuts off and comes in and all that jazz.
Like a lot of games do that these days, where things have to sync up. You have to write pieces that will sync up with each other. And like the crazy part is like, I think I like over delivered on Blood Swamps for them. I think I gave them a ton more than what they asked for. You can have like 30 to 45-second pieces, or maybe even a minute and a half if you got something real cool, that all need to be able to be interchangeable. So like if one thing is going like dun, 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 and then you just go over to something that's like a completely different tempo, it's going to sound fucked up. So they have to stay in the same feel, and you have to be conscious of that while you're working. So whenever you're writing something, you have to think, is this going to work with part A, part B, and part C from the front to the back, and how they're glued together? And like there'll be these little pieces here and there that you're like, but like it works, you know, like you're not going to hit a fucking home run with every single one of them, but having a piece here and there that you're like, oh, it's a little different, like that's fun. But like if it was just 4 to the floor with everything, it'd be boring. So you got to have those pieces. It's a weird balance. Like it really is. Totally. But yeah, everything has to connect together.
I know with because when you did IDKFA, didn't you approach Bobby Prince to get his blessing?
Yes.
Yeah. Did you?
I still talk to Bobby Prince every year.
Oh, good man. So was there a part of you? I mean, did you contact Mick at all?
I didn't talk to Mick specifically because it felt like a weird situation.
Yeah.
Like with all the stuff going on. Yeah, and I was like, ooh, I don't know like how each party is gonna react to that. And I just kind of wanted to look at it more from like a professional standpoint. I always thought, cool, like if I get a chance to talk to him later on, you know, I'd love to sit down and like just kind of chat with him about it and just be like, hey, look, you know, I wanted to look while I was working on this stuff. I I had your work in mind. Like, it wasn't like I'm stepping in and being like, oh, all right, you know. it was like, I want something cool that can continue this for the fans. And like, if I'm the guy that's selected to do that now, I want to show respect to, you know, the people before.
Because
the Aubrey Hodges, the Bobby Prince, the Mick Gordon, all that stuff. You know.
Well, that says a lot about your character that you're willing to do that. Because I don't think a lot of musicians would do that. So the fact that you wanted to, I mean, obviously, if the circumstances were different, I suppose you would have talked to Mick about it.
You make more friends whenever you do that, and whenever you make more friends, you have more work later on. You know, like you'll be able to stay more relevant. Like if you treat this job and like your own job, really, it applies for most things. If you treat the job as, I want to make you an ally, I don't want to, you know, make you an enemy, you'll absolutely have way more doors to open later on. So I've always looked at that, like with anything in life, for the most part. Like, I mean, unless you just really fucking piss me off.
Yeah, but how many people would actually do that to you? I'm sure.
Yeah, it's that doesn't happen that often, thankfully.
Yeah. So is that something that you've always had, that mindset, or is that something that you learned from somewhere, or just developed over the years? It's a good mindset to have.
I've just seen too many people burn too many bridges, especially in this industry, where they're like on their way out and they're just like, fuck you and fuck everything else. And I'm just like, man, like, dude, that's not gonna work for you if you want to continue doing this. Like, people see that shit, and yeah, everybody gets upset. Like, you know, work doesn't always go your way, and most times it doesn't. You got to find a way, though. You got to carve your own path, and if you're going to be able to do that easier with more people helping you.
Yeah,
with a network, you know.
Very much
that,
so.
and I just believe in good vibes. Like, I'm that guy.
Yeah,
you know, like.
But the thing, like, because creative people can be quite sensitive, I suppose, more so, I think, than the average Joe. So that probably plays some part into it as well. And then you combine sensitivity with an ego. It's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, man. Like the ego stuff. That's a trip, because like I've seen people who've worked on like bigger projects that they just kind of turn into a different person after like a certain amount of cash flow shows up, you know, like, and it always blew my mind. Like I was always like, man, like, number one, I don't have even close to that kind of money, but
not yet.
I'm a musician.
Yeah.
Not yet. Yeah. Right.
We're manifesting this right now. Yeah.
But like, I always just looked at it as like, man, you have to keep your network tight, and you have to be able to accept more people. Like, you have to be able to be approachable, and, you know, people want to be able to talk to you, because if they don't want to and they just think you're a fucking asshole because you got an ego, and you worked on these cool things, but if the perception is he's a dick or she's a dick, then what's the point of all the work that came beforehand? Like, that's how people know you now, is they think you're a dick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And particularly in this day and age with social media, everything travels so quickly.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Like, it's weird. Like, the internet, from growing up with dial-up to now, it's like, you know, there's no way me and you would be talking before this. Like, and now I can see your face, I can hear you. It's all crystal clear, and you can connect to anybody. It's nuts. Yeah. So nothing can be hidden.
When you first did IDKFA, like, because you spent 2 years doing it, didn't you? 2 years you spent doing that project. But
yeah, that was just for fun too.
So what was the first track that you actually did?
Oh,
do you even remember?
Man, I think it was Dark Halls,
which is has a pretty a special place in your heart, doesn't it? Because of the tremolo guitar effect. Yeah.
How do you know that? You did your research.
Of course I do, man.
That's pretty good research, though. That's in-depth shit. Yeah. I've only said that a few times. Yeah, I love that. Like, that was the first mix whenever I was coming through IDKFA, because like IDKFA was just a a template for me to get better at mixing guitar, drums, and bass. I was just like, how do I perfect my craft a little bit better? And it was right after Rise of the Triad, which is like, maybe you should have done that before you worked on Rot. But Rot sounded fine, you know, like so. But Dark Halls like came together, and I could be completely wrong. Like maybe it was another track that came first, but I remember Dark Halls coming together. It was like one of the first three, and I was like, oh, dude, like it just something about that tremolo guitar lending itself with a little bit of reverb had like just opened up a door in my head where it was like you can do lots of interesting things with effects in your mix with guitars that don't necessarily feel like a guitar. Which, you know, looking back at it, I'm like, yeah, that's totally a guitar. But like, you know, like mid-20s, early 20s me was like, oh, this is groundbreaking. It's like, yeah, not so much, but I'm glad it opened the door for you, you know, and that you like the mix.
Yeah, because it's phenomenal what you did. And there's some where you kind of stay very close to the original and then you chuck in your own stuff on top of that, which is really well done. I think the very first track I heard of that was probably Tower of Babel, I think.
Oh yeah.
Which sounded so epic. Like part of it sounded like it should be like a film score before you go into like the more guitar based stuff.
Yeah.
That must have been so fun.
No, it was like IDKFA is like my like personal mission statement with that was to cater more to the Doom purist people, like whenever it came to the soundtrack. Which is why I went almost as far as to like find a way to contact Bobby Prince and just talk to him about it. Cause I wanted to make sure it was okay with him. Like before I put something out, I was like, I'm not going to make any money off of it. I was like, it's just more of a tribute to like your work. And he was totally fine with it. He was like, yeah, this sounds awesome. Go for it.
Was it hard to find him?
Well, I knew Lee Jackson from Rot, so right. I was like, hey, do you have Bobby's number? And do you think he would mind if I gave him a call? He was like, I don't think so. He's like, here's his phone number. I was like, okay, cool. But yeah, like I approach it from if I was just playing OG Doom and had never I've never played a mod in my life, and I heard this soundtrack, would I recognize it? And I want it to be as close as possible. And yeah, like every now and then I throw in something like, hey, here's a lead or something like that, because it felt like, cool, this feels appropriate here. Yeah, sure, why not? But it wasn't all the time. And it was only on like a handful of tracks. Oh, maybe like a quarter of the thing. The rest of it, I was just like, it just needs to be, you know, this is what it would sound like if it was done with today's tools. Rather than the like the Sound Blaster card stuff.
Yeah, the MIDI stuff back in the day.
Yeah.
But I think that one of the cool things about it is because obviously you're the guitar guy, you know, you do a lot of metal rock stuff, but like you've got stuff like Waltz of the Demons, Sinister, Demons from Adrian's Pen, which don't really have that. It's just more strings, more haunting strings sort of thing. So were you well versed in that before you tackled those sort of tracks? Or is that
Rock got me a little more versed into some of that. And like the project that came afterwards that Interceptor was working on that was called Duke Nukem Mass Destruction, which like got them in a huge lawsuit and everything. And then turned into Bombshell. Yeah. Like we were working on string stuff for that too. So my production with that had gotten a little bit better as time had gone on. I think Sinister, actually, now that I think about it, was maybe the first track. That might be the very first one. And I think it was actually before I even announced anything with IDKFA. I think I just put it on YouTube one day. I don't know. I have to go back and look. But it's like so the strings. Good, no, I love it. Like, in fact, at the very end, I went back and touched on that one more time because I was like, it needs like a little extra something here and there. But
there's like a haunting laugh part way through it, I think, that you checked.
Yeah, that's me.
Is it? Is that actually you?
It's me pitched down. Yeah.
So
I was like, it needs to be creepy. It needs like some creepy. I think in the final version, like I saw enough comments on YouTube where it was like, hey, this is great except for the laugh. And I was like, okay. So like I'll turn it down.
I think it sounds awesome.
Oh, thank you. I can't believe you remember that too. That's fucking cool, man.
Yeah. Well, I might know more than most because like during the lockdown here back in 2020, I had a bit more free time, so I made 32 Doom levels. I had like this editor.
Holy shit.
So I made like 32 Doom levels, and I used a number of your tracks in the
Oh,
the
cool.
little mod that I use. And I remember Sinister because I think I at one level I think I called it the Halls of Horror or something, and I was like, oh, this track is perfect. And I was like,
nice,
because I had to loop like certain part of it, so I had to edit it so it had like a solid loop. And I remember hearing the laugh bit constantly as I was doing it. I was like, oh, this is awesome. I think I noticed it, but you notice things more in detail when you're actually editing or mixing something, right?
Oh yeah, because it's just on repeat, dude.
Yeah. Do you get to a point where you hate your own music because you've heard it so much?
I don't hate it, but like I'm sure my girlfriend does. Like there's times when I come out of the office and she'll look at me and just kind of hum what I was working on, and I'll just be like, oh, give me a break, come on. Like, and she's just like da 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 da, like just like saying it back to me. But like with me, I find a melody that I like and like a hook, and I'm like, cool. And I don't think about it a lot while I'm doing it. Whenever I'm mixing, I don't even really pay that much attention to it because I'm like, okay, writing's done unless another idea comes up. It's more listening to it 150 times more like, hey, are the sonics, does this punch me in the face? Does it hit me in the chest? Do I hear anything that sounds like distortion? That kind of stuff. So like I somehow I tune that out. I don't know how I've trained myself to do that. Maybe it just comes with listening to music enough times, but yeah, I don't pay that much attention to it anymore.
Do you notice your own mixing though? Because obviously, well, usually what happens with musicians is as time goes on, their mixing gets better. So yeah, you might go back and listen to some of your old work and be like, oh my God, my mixing's horrible.
Oh yeah. Like mixes done in like a room that's way too bright, and mixes done that are overcompensating bass. Like anything from, I feel like, I'm not going to give a year just because I don't want people to go back and be like, oh yeah, let me go listen to these and criticize this guy's fucking work, like, but like there's a certain cutoff date from when I was working at a certain place that I go back and listen to those mixes and I'm just like, fuck, like these could use some work. So it's a little rough. Yeah.
Well, do a lot of the tracks that you worked on back in the day, do you still have the masters in like a vault? Are you tempted to go back and redo the mixes of them?
No.
No, you're just like, not
interested. If that check's big enough, yeah, sure, man. Like I'll reopen the vault, but holy shit. Like there's a lot of work on something like that. Like if Rise of the Triad, if Apogee Software came back to me and was like, hey, remix the entire Rise of the Triad soundtrack, I'd be like, you better have a fucking big bank account. That's a lot of work. Talking about sessions with like 60 instruments plus on each one. Yeah, it's ridiculous. So I part of me, yes, wants to. I'd love to if I was superhuman, but maybe in like, I don't know, maybe in 10 years, maybe in 5 years. You never know what the future holds.
Yeah, well, that's right.
Yeah.
And mixing takes a lot of time anyway.
But thinking about it right now makes me want to vomit.
So how do you mix? I mean, do you use multiple? So like, say you might have multiple speakers and you use headphones. Is that what you usually do in terms of how you mix?
Yes, I've got like a pair of stereo fields here that are all measured to get the equilateral, or not the equilateral, like the whole triangle effect, 3 feet by 3 feet by 3 feet. And then I've got also a pair of just like regular consumer, like higher grade consumer audio speakers to the right of those. And then I also check it through headphones, and I'll check them with room correction and without room correction before I send anything off to
right. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, like all the tools just to make sure that, hey, do I like this?
Yeah.
And is my room coloring this too much?
I asked David about air fatigue. Did you have much of a problem with that? Because one, Doom is very heavy, And I know with the type of work you do, it's very easy to get into the zone and where you just don't want to take any breaks.
Yeah, I had to force myself to stop quite a few times where, especially on the deadline that we had, I had to force myself to stop quite a few times and be like, okay, headphones off. Now for the next, couple hours, we're just going to be doing the near fields. And then after that, you're not going to be able to work on shit because you're not going to be able to hear anything below, like 60 cycles. It's just going to be like 80 cycles. So I'd have to step away, and like that's kind of where my love during the lockdown came from, riding bikes, because I feel like whenever I would get ear fatigue and I just went out and rode my bike, whenever I came back, I was like, oh yeah, I'm okay. I'd get like a few more hours out of work because I felt refreshed. But yeah, like that was definitely a thing that happened for sure. Like if there was more time involved where I could like just dedicate, a block of a few hours per day to that stuff, rather than, hey, let's sit down and see what we can come up with from the time you finish breakfast to right before you're about to eat dinner, like all in one thing.
Yeah.
Then yeah, I think that like the results would have been like, I don't want to say better, they would have been different. You just would have gotten a different result, because like Blood Swamps is pretty fucking cool. And like I don't know if I would have made that better somehow, but like I think it would have been a different result had I had the timelines been a little different.
Right.
Yeah.
So how do you manage your time? Because with deadlines, I mean, were you doing any 24-hour nights?
Fuck no.
Oh,
no.
Good man.
Oh my god.
That shows
like
good time management.
Dude, sleep's important, especially when you get past 30 years old. Sleep is fucking important. Making sure that I got enough sleep, making sure I ate the right things in the morning, getting a little bit of exercise, which I could totally stand to do again now after Christmas, like I just haven't started again. But like just keeping things going that are exercising my muscles and exercising my mind and making me feel good, as long as it's keeping me awake and keeping me focused, all good. But yeah, there was none of the I'm staying up till 5 or 6 in the morning, except for like maybe one night where I was feeling, it was just because I was like, I have this idea and I need to get it.
I need to
like,
get it down. Yeah.
And that's like anytime that happens with any game, it's not like, oh man, I need to meet this deadline. I've never had that problem, thank goodness. It's always like anytime I stayed up, it was always, I'm staying up because I'm having fun and I want to see if I can get my ideas fleshed out. And more times than not, I stay up super late and then it turns into I didn't get shit done. And the problem is you need sleep, like, and that's what I forget.
Yeah, well, and
like, yeah, don't stay up, go to bed,
Well, if you're tired as well, then your brain's not operating properly, and that contributes to air fatigue as well. Well, you don't even realize you have air fatigue.
No, you just
like, this is
mindlessly
awesome.
Tweaking things. You're like, God damn, why is the snare so fucking loud the next day? But the day previous, it was just like, this snare sounds great. Can't wait to come back to this,
So, given your relationship with Chad, have you pitched to him like about there being an official soundtrack for the DLC?
I would love for there to be one, but I haven't heard anything from it. Like, that'd be cool, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I kind of left I left the ball pretty much like empty-handed, just because like that whole situation with like the Eternal soundtrack stuff, I didn't want to touch it. So I was just like, hey, as a professional, I'm, you paid me to do a job, so job's done. Here you go. Are you happy? They were like, they were so nice to us. It was so cool, like for real. But yeah, I didn't want to push any other buttons than what was displayed, just because the situation felt like I'm walking in interesting territory right now, and I'm like on a little bit of a social tightrope,
Yeah.
And I just wanted to make sure that something was cool there for the fans, and that was my main priority. So like if a soundtrack comes later on, that'd be kick ass.
Yeah,
I'd be all for it.
Well, I would be surprised if you weren't given the green light again on another Doom game at some point.
Oh man, that warms my heart. Like, because
It wouldn't make any sense to me to not hire you again.
that like I wonder about that myself. I'm like, I wonder if I'll work on another Doom game, because even if you work on one, you wonder if you're going to be asked back, because it could be like one of those things where it's like, yeah, you did a great job, but we want to try this. And like studios do that all the time with a bunch of franchises.
But Doom has a very specific sound.
Yeah, I know.
That a lot of composers, I don't think they could do.
Yeah. I agree.
And like that's a testament to David as well, because like when you look at David's work, I think it was Genlock that actually helped secure it, but he's done a lot of orchestra and synthetic stuff.
Oh yeah,
synthesized.
I had many talks with him about that like that stuff and those tools. I was like, hey, what do you use for strings? Like that kind of stuff.
Yeah. But with that being said, I mean, it would be easier, I would think, from their perspective, to just get you guys again. And obviously, you guys have formed a good relationship. I mean, I don't know if you were invited to Christmas functions at id Software or something, but
yeah. I think that's like an all like internal thing.
Yeah.
Like, like whenever you're at the studio, but like QuakeCon and stuff like that. Yeah, I'll totally go over and hang out with those guys, and we'll shoot the shit. And like if they ever do the outing stuff, where there used to be this thing in Plano where it was called Game Developer Drink Up, where it would go and Gearbox would go and handful of other like independent developers would all just show up and we'd all mingle. That was always a good time. And I think that's slowly starting to come back, thankfully.
Yeah, I think we're winding down. We're getting to the end of this thing.
God, I hope so.
Hoping, yeah. But as someone like obviously with the fans advocating for you, and you've done all these projects and stuff, but you seem very very grounded through it all.
You have to be.
I know, but like would you have specific moments where you kind of check yourself, where you're like, where you're kind of like, yeah, I'm pretty awesome. No.
Dude, I'm lying to you if I say, okay. There are moments like where like, you finish a project and I'm just like, holy fuck, I just did that. Like, this is awesome. I'm the shit. And then I do that in my office for 5 minutes. And then I'm just like, all right, it's
got it out of my system. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I just like, nobody wants to fucking hear that. If I go out with my friends and I'm just like, hey, I worked on that Doom game, they'd be like, yeah, you're also the guy who got beat up by that kid in like 8th grade. Like they're really good at that. I love my friends for that.
So that's how you stay grounded, is you got a good
I keep
circle.
a ton of people around me who give me shit. And I like that's my humor, is I love like pushing buttons back and forth with my friends, and I've got some really great friends who keep me grounded with that kind of stuff. But I don't always need it. Like I'm more self-deprecating than my friends are. I just love that humor, and I just look at it from a perspective of the light that I like to see the musicians that I enjoy, like that I listen to on the regular. Like I now have to think of that in terms of, okay, how would people who listen to my music, like if I just said this, what would they think? And if I'm like, no, like I kind of tune to that. I try to be a nice guy, try to be friendly with everybody and just not have a fucking ego. It's as easy as that, really. I'm over explaining. Just don't be a dick,
Well, it seems pretty straightforward, but it's surprising to me how many creative people have an ego. And it might come back to the cash flow thing, possibly.
Yeah, it's like
if you end up being a millionaire, we'll revisit this conversation. I'll be like,
hey, if I end up becoming a millionaire, I know exactly where the first like $100,000 to $200,000 where they're gonna be donated. Like I'm that guy that I want to help out the community around me. That kind of stuff. Like I think a good portion of it, first off, would go to like the North Texas Foodbank. I've donated to that ever since I saw the the lines like at the beginning of 2020 when we had the shutdown, and there were lines like to go get food, like
Really?
just down
Is it that
in
bad?
Dallas. And I was like seeing those photos, I was like, oh my God, like, and so like me and my aunt, so we talked about it back and forth, and she was like, hey, for Christmas, I want you to donate to that for me. And I've donated back and forth since. It's just, I don't know. That's the shit that I think about. It's just make your surroundings better, and like your environment and your community, and your standard of living will come up too.
Totally. It's a
Yeah.
good view to
More
have.
people need it.
Well, yeah, I think specifically Western society is very individualistic in terms of its mindset compared to
Yeah,
say a lot of Asian countries where
yeah,
they think more community based.
It's part of the territory whenever it comes with like, like the capitalistic look on things, which isn't,
There's pros and cons.
capitalistic stuff isn't bad. It's okay, but like there are things where it's like, hey, we should look at this again, as things age. Yeah.
Do I sense someone getting into politics later?
Fuck no.
Well,
I've seen what that does to other musicians that I've followed. Like anytime Dave Mustaine talks, I'm like, please stop talking.
would first policy be to build houses that don't get flooded in Texas?
Yeah, dude, absolutely. Well, first I got to take care of mine so that I can then build the houses. Yeah.
So in terms of projects that you haven't worked on, I mean, at this stage in your career, like what is there left that you want to do that you haven't done?
A lot.
Really?
I've actually been thinking. Yeah, I've been thinking about that ever since Doom shipped, because like as a kid, I was always like, whenever I first started working on this stuff in Rise of the Triad, I looked over at the CCO for Apogee a handful of times, and Dave, and I was like, I want to work on Doom one day. And they were like, hey, maybe you can. And that was in like 2010, 2011. And I did it. Like, here we are. And I worked on Quake. Like,
Yeah.
I did Quake Champions, like I did both of those things. And I was like, right after Doom shipped, I was like, holy shit, you did Doom and Quake. And like, I'd like to do if it ever visits like a single player Quake game, I'd love to work on that. That's like right in my style. I'd maybe like to take a look at Wolfenstein. I don't know. Like,
I was gonna say that. I was thinking I'd love to see your take on Wolfenstein.
Yeah, I think that would be fun too. Wolf's an interesting IP that's real zany. So like I think you can do a lot of cool shit with that.
Yeah.
The other one, like honestly, like outside of id games, because I'm a huge id fanboy, is the Hitman series. I always liked Jesper Kidd's work on that, and he's a big influence whenever I approach Ambience, because he made the weirdest ambience ever. And it was always unsettling, and it was always just, it had this fog about it, like this musical fog where you weren't sure what was going to happen in front of you. And I love that. It's so cool. And like Hitman Contracts has a ton of that. And I'd love for some of that to kind of be injected back into the IP, because like 1, 2, and 3, the reboots that just shipped in the last since 2016, 1, 2, and 3 are awesome. I love the music in it. It's incredible. It's really well done, all 3 of those games. But if they were to go and do something else with Hitman, like in the future, where they're like, well, yeah, maybe we want to take a little bit more of a darker tone as what we had in the past and do something with it, I'd love to try that. That would be awesome. I love those games.
How do you find writing ambient stuff? Do you find it quite easy to do, or do you over-evaluate it?
No, these days I don't over-evaluate as much. Less is more. If you can,
that's pretty much ambience. Yeah.
And like if you can find like just a few instruments that work really well together, it's so good. Like, and I feel like every time I hand it to a developer, because it's not like an action track or something like that, and I'm like super proud of it, and I'm always like, this is awesome, you're gonna love this, and they're like, yeah, cool, fits the level, and I'm like, you don't understand, it's amazing. there's like that part of me that like I never say anything, but I'm like, oh, it's so good. Here, it'll fit the level perfectly. Just put it in like that, you know. But that's also the thing that like most people don't, you know, it's not as widely renowned as like a big combat track. Like people remember some of the ambient stuff from like Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal, but they can mostly tell you about BFG Division and, you know, Meat Hook, you know, for the most part.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, those are the tracks with the
those are the staples.
Yeah. I suppose the melodic remembrance, if you can call it that. But
yeah, it's what sticks in the head.
Yeah.
It's also where it was placed in the game.
So have you gone to a place now where you don't have to submit demos? Like if somebody contacts you, like for you to work on a game, I'd imagine given your portfolio, they're not going to be like, hey, Andrew, can you submit a demo?
Well, AAA companies will always ask you for a demo beforehand because, you know, they're writing big checks and they're like, hey,
which is, yeah.
That's understandable.
So did you have to do a demo even for Ancient Gods?
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Maybe that'll show up one day. I need to ask them about that.
What, the demo that you submitted to them?
Yeah. Like it
it's in the vault, so it's in their vault somewhere.
Yeah. Like they've got it somewhere. It's probably not the coolest thing, but like I you know, they were like, hey, send us a demo. You've got a week, you know, like just testing the waters. Can you work with a timeline? Send us a demo. Here's a week, you know. And I was like, okay. And like I sent him something and I was like, yeah, that's cool. That works. And I think like,
how long was the demo? How long?
Oh, dude, it was like 6 minutes.
Was it?
It was ambient. It was like a little bit of light stuff and some heavier stuff, and then back to an ambient, and then back to an even heavier thing. And in fact, like one of the riff that's in there, I think is the one that I used in Blood Swamps, I think. Yeah, that's actually a play on Intermission. I think it's that one.
Yeah.
That's you know, it's a play on and I'm pretty sure that that's the one that it was. But it's like I just remember the last minute and a half where I was like, "Ooh, that's heavy." So yeah, I gotta ask and see if they've got that. I don't have that session. I made it and then I was like, here you go.
Yeah, they need to release it, man. Like if they do Ancient Gods album, you know, have it as a bonus track or something.
Yeah, just like as a, I bet David's got one too. They should, if they release an Ancient Gods soundtrack, they should throw that on there, or like just put it out on like Twitter or something like that, you know?
Yeah, because what was the dynamic between you and David? Because
I hate David.
But you guys didn't work together, even though you worked together, if that makes sense. Like, because you were still isolated from each other.
We talked to each other every day, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I felt like that guy was, he's like a brother in arms the entire time.
Yeah, we were both going through the same.
Yeah. We both
thing.
knew going into the first DLC that it was like, hey, the timelines are tight, and we even talked about it beforehand. We were like, hey, these deadlines are a little, they're a little tight, and like we talked about it for a little bit, and I was like, I just told David, I was like, I mean, I'm ready to put myself up to the challenge if you are. And he was like, fuck yeah. So it was more of a, you know, like the Predator handshake, you know, thing going on. Yeah, we were both pumped. But every day we'd call each other and just talk about, you know, hey, these are my struggles today on the mix. This is what I'm doing. These are the tools I'm using. Hey, how's your family? Hey, how's, you know, for me, hey, how's your animals? And just stuff like that. It was great. And like, he has the same dark sense of humor I do. So we'd make the same terrible jokes to each other. It was awesome. Just pick up the phone and immediately start, you know, cussing him out. Hey, pick up your fucking phone next time, you know?
Why aren't you answering?
Yeah.
That also helps though, because it would avoid a scenario where you have imposter syndrome, I suppose.
It breaks the tension.
Yeah. Because you know someone else is going through it with you.
Yeah. Like honesty, that also plays into the whole ego thing. Honesty is key. being honest with yourself and being honest with anybody that you're working with is going to set you free of any kind of problems that you got, because you'll be able to rectify them. And if you can't, and you ask for help and you say that, hey, I'm having trouble, chances are somebody can help you. And if you've got that network of people, like I said, that just want to help, then you're good.
Were you tempted when you were doing the soundtrack to have like a lot of callbacks to Bobby Prince's stuff? Or were you actually told not to do that at all by Chad?
No. I wasn't told not to do that. I think one time there was a moment where part of the feedback was, hey, you don't have to put so many references if you're trying. Like, I think they were like, I don't know if they were like, he's trying to like do callbacks to everything or something. I think it was the Dark Lord fight, and I was like, no, like this is, I just think it's cool Easter eggs. And they're like, oh, okay. Like we thought you were like, just like overexerting yourself and like, hey, how do I make this reference? And they were like, we think it's cool. Just want to make sure that you're not like just trying to put like Doom 2 and Doom in here, like put your own stuff if you want. But yeah, there was some pressure from me, because like as a fan, I want to hear that stuff. I want to hear what, updated Darkhold sounds like in New Doom. I think that would be cool. Which, like it had already shown up in like the previous games. There was callbacks to that stuff. 2016 and Eternal have all those kind of Easter eggs hidden around. So I was like, yeah, I want to hide some Easter eggs too. I love Easter eggs.
Given you talk to Bobby Prince once a year, have you talked to him about the soundtrack? You're like, hey man, have you listened to my soundtrack of Ancient Gods?
I think the last time I talked to him was, I want to say it was before it shipped last year. I haven't given him a call since, just because life was crazy for the last year for me. And all kinds of ups and downs. Personally, like I had some stuff where like my father had a heart attack, and like and then had pulmonary edema, and like while he's in the hospital, like just all this stuff.
Could and you it was go right see in the him?
No,
because because of COVID, like some.
Well, and this was like right in the middle of that last surge with Omicron, so we got put in the middle of like all the like ICU, no beds, that kind of stuff, and we're like, oh my god, yeah. And so like he's fine, and he's a trooper, and like if there's anything I learned from that, it's like you're a lot. If you have any of this man's DNA, and you're way stronger than you think.
Yeah.
Because he fought through a ton of stuff, and he's doing physical therapy now. He's gonna be great. He's awesome. He even got COVID in the hospital from that, and I was like, oh my god, like, oh, this is the end. And they're like, no, he was vaccinated. Calm down. He's gonna be okay. You know?
Yeah.
But like emotionally, that stuff rips you apart. But yeah, like just like that, work, catching up with the developers after the Ancient Gods and making sure that stuff's going by. I had to make sure that things were delivered on time for Proteus. I had to make sure things were delivered on time for a developer in Japan that I'm working with. I had to make sure that stuff was delivered on time for Dusk 82, Nightmare Reaper, which just came out. Like it's whew, man. Yeah, it's been going fast. And now, like as of whenever Nightmare Reaper shipped, I think that was a week ago, and I'm finally like, all right, now we're on breathing space now. Yeah.
So do you keep like a diary or something when you're managing multiple projects, just so you know what the heck you're doing?
Hold on, before we get onto this question, no, I haven't talked to Bobby Prince. I'm sorry, I was telling you why I haven't talked to Bobby Prince.
Yeah.
No, I haven't talked to him yet about the ship of the DLC. I told him whenever I was working on it, and he was like, hey, awesome, congratulations, and just had a couple words for me. But I need to talk to him again. He reached out to me about my father, but I just never got back to him because it was like right in the middle of all that. But yeah, I need to give him a call.
Yeah.
Anyways, back to your question. Sorry, I wanted to just tie that up.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the question now. So when you're managing multiple projects or multiple things at the same time, how do you keep track of everything?
Big old whiteboard over here that I can't pan and show you what's on the whiteboard. Yeah, there's only there's 3 projects on the whiteboard right now, but one of them's like just kind of a hey when you get time. So there's 2 projects right now that I'm working on, and I'm working on my own personal music on my free time now, thankfully, for the first time in like 10 years.
Do you have like something next to the whiteboard that says "Do not erase this"?
No, because like I don't need to worry about it. Like if Taya, my girlfriend, came in here and was just like, because she hates whiteboards, if she was ever just like like for some reason I'd be like, what are you doing? Like I don't come over to your accountant's Excel spreadsheet and just like these numbers need to be changed for no reason.
Yeah.
Except other than they need to be changed. No, I erase stuff as I go. Like, so whenever I'm done, I get to do a big satisfying mark off, and then I leave it there for a few days just to show myself, hey, you marked it off. Then I erase it. So completion, seeing that you completed something and like having that hand-eye thing. I don't know. There's something about writing it down. Yeah. That just feels satisfying to me.
That's actually a cool way of doing it, because I know a lot of people that use like Google Calendar or Microsoft Excel or something, but a whiteboard is actually a really cool way of doing it.
Yeah, I used to have like a big notepad where I'd digitally type everything in, but one day I was just like, fuck this. Like I need to see something like that stares me in the face every day. It's like, these are your tasks and you get to mark them off. Like you can write whatever you want on here. Nobody else can see it. It's not on the internet.
Yeah.
So you can mark off anything you want. You can draw terrible things right beside it and be like, I fucking hated this part of this, but no, I don't hate anything that I work on, but like, if I was having a bad day, but yeah, there's just something to it. Being able to physically do that. I love. More people should try it.
No, I think it's good.
$20 whiteboard at Walmart.
Cool, man. Well, hey, I'll wrap up there. I know this is work time for you, isn't it? You're gonna be going back to making some more tunes.
Yeah, I'm gonna go make some more tunes probably in an hour or so once he chill. Well, he's pretty chill out right now.
He's been pretty chill the whole time. Man.
Yes. Hey, say hello. He says no. Oh, there he goes. Oh,
there he goes.
But yeah, this will be work time for me to kind of go back, but I'm probably going to take a break and just go get some walk around for a couple miles.
Cool.
Get the blood going.
Now, for any reason somebody isn't following you, where's the best place to follow you? Twitter?
Yeah, just at Andrew Hulshult, spelled Hulshult. You can also go to hulshult.com. That'll take you all of those things. And you can find me on YouTube and Spotify and pretty much anywhere you can get music, honestly.
Yeah. Well, hey, I appreciate you taking time out and doing this.
Yeah.
I know you do. I know you do a lot of these. So.
No, all good. Yeah. I had fun. This is great.
Yeah. All the best for the future, by the way. I'm looking forward to seeing your name next to a Wolfenstein or another Doom project at some point.
Thank you. Yeah. I hope so. That would be so much fun.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty sure it'll happen. I'd be very surprised if it doesn't. I'd be like, Chad, why? Cool. All right. Well, that's the show, everyone. Make sure you share, like, and subscribe. And until next time, stay safe.
Take care.